Hi everyone, this is Jen from Scrapping Posh, and I am doing a project share on this box, and I will put before pictures. This was a box that I got from Michael's about 3 years ago. It was bright pink, and sorry if we're a little shaky, but I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this video, and this was it, just to tape it on my phone. So the box measures about 10 by 10 by 10, I think, or 9, somewhere between 9 and 10. And I have a tutorial coming on it, possibly right after this. I just don't know how long that tutorial is going to be. So I have rice paper here on the front, and this is, I believe, the Stamperia large size rice paper. It's about 11 by 17. And it is the Da Vinci collection. They have another Da Vinci collection from ITD also. I will link you to the rice papers below so you can kind of decide for yourself what's the best option for you, because they have lots of different kinds. They have lots of pastels and music and stuff, but I did like the Da Vinci. So I cut down each strip and Mod Podged it on. I had these door pulls from my stash, so I added 5 of those, and I did use the screws that come with them. And let me pull you in here. I backed it with a piece of the 90-point chipboard from Artistic Studio Creations, or ASC on Etsy. On the exterior of the box, it is a white tissue paper. After I spray painted it with matte chalkboard white paint, I put tissue paper on it. Some was white and some was green, I think. I think all of it was white. And then I just added paints and inks and distress sprays, which are also available on Crystal Store, until it came out this kind of sort of leathery color. It doesn't look exactly like leather, but it was enough for me. And plus, you're not going to see the sides of this anyways. But if I ever choose to move it, you know, they're still presentable. And then I took the leftover scraps from the rice paper and just Mod Podged them here and there to kind of tie it all together. And this drawer is a chipboard drawer. Like I said, it was from Michael's, and it's been, you know, I've used it, so you can see, like, down at the bottom maybe that the drawer kind of like is saggy, and that's just part of it. I didn't fix anything that was wrong with it. I may have been able to fix that temporarily, but it's fine. I put some coffee dyed printer paper in the labels. I haven't filled them out yet because I'm not sure exactly if I'm going to keep it the way it is. And then inside, if you guys are wondering, the drawers are about almost 2 inches high, I believe. I lined after I painted the inside of the drawers black on the outside, I lined the drawers with scrap paper, black scrap paper. So in the top, I put some small embellishments here in sequins and flocking powder. The second drawer, and you notice that I'm pulling out the drawer pulls and not using these. I'm using the I guess the factory pulls, because these are just held in by a small layer of chipboard, so they're not functional for that. You can see they move. If you probably adhered them with something else, that may be different. The second drawer, I have some metallic luster by Deco Art, and a lot of mine's dried up. I don't know if you guys experienced that, but Crystal has some like that in the store. I think I may purchase some. And then my micro beads, and I store them upside down so I can see what color I have. Also from Artistic Studio Creations. I have, ironically enough, my gold leaf with the Mona Lisa on there, and some extra sequins that I just need to find small containers for. And then my Stamperia plaster, or they plaster? I don't remember what they are, but I, made this from the mold and painted some of them up. I still have to use them, so I put them in there. And then my wax sealing kit, which before was in a blue plastic box. So there's the project. I just thought I'd do a little share before I started the tutorial, which I think, since this is only 5 minutes long, I will start the tutorial right after this and sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee while we do this, and head on over to Artistic Studio Creations on Etsy to get your rice paper and start redoing any project that you could possibly think of to fit your needs, your style. And I have another project that I need to do this too. I haven't decided what rice paper I'm going to use. So thanks a lot. ASC supplies on Etsy. Use Scrapping Posh 10 for 10% off your entire order. Have a great day. Hey, if you like this project, please subscribe, like, and comment. I'll have some more coming. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye. Hi everyone, this is Jen from Scrapping Posh, and I am here today with an Artistic Studio Creation Design Team project and a little craft reorganization room tip. This is a paper unit that I got from Michael's probably a couple years ago. It measures about 10 by 10 by 10. I think it's 10 all the way around. So the problem is it was bright pink, and I'll put a picture so that you guys seen it. It's this color. I have nothing in my room that color. So what we're going to do is we're going to attempt a rice paper makeover, and we're going to put this rice paper from Stamperia, and it's from Artistic Studio Creations. It's a large size, so watch the sizes. It's bigger than an A4. This one says it measures 29.7 centimeters by 42. It's about 11 by 17. So I'm going to do that on the front of the drawers, and then possibly patch some else on the sides. I spray painted it white, and then afterwards I realized that I probably only had to do the drawer fronts. If I was going to do the rest of it, I'm going to try a leather technique to see if I can get it to work. So the first thing we need is some Mod Podge, or some kind of decoupage. So I got gloss, but you can use matte. It depends on what you want it to look like. Old, like, faded leather may look like, kind of shiny. So next thing I'm going to do is cover my work surface, because I don't want to mess up my poster board there. And I think I'll start with the drawers. I don't really care right now what the inside of the drawers look like. This is the pattern that was on the box. For now, we're going to leave those plain. So I think the drawer front's probably going to be the easiest part to do, but they take a little while to dry, so I definitely wanted to get them started. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut these just a little bit oversized strips, and you can see it's only going to use about half of this material. So I'm going to cut this to about 2-inch strips, and I found that if you pull it tight and leave the paper on or the plastic on, it kind of cuts it a little bit better. And I have a Caterpillar, so I'm not sure how everybody else's will do. And it's going to make a liar out of me. It's not going to cut it all. Okay. Plan B. We'll cut it with scissors. I'm just going to use my craft mat here to cut 2-inch strips, or to mark 2-inch strips with a permanent marker. And I'm doing this on the plastic, so no worries about ruining your paper. If you get the new rice paper, and I don't remember the company, it doesn't come in plastic, I don't think, but these are oversized, so technically they're going to wrap around the top and bottom anyways. 1, 2, 3, how many drawers do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm not horribly worried about, I wouldn't have been worried about it either way. And I would cut it by hand, but I want to have the images, you know, like eyeball it, but I want to have the images somewhat, 4, 5, like, I want you to be able to tell that it's like a pattern. Okay. Now, rice paper is translucent, which is why I painted the drawer fronts white. I wasn't sure what I was doing with the rest of the box, so I painted the rest of the box white too. Which you could definitely decoupage the whole thing with rice paper. I just don't think I have that much coordinating rice paper. So we're going to do the tissue paper technique that I did on my journal cover. That's going to give it some texture. And then we'll paint it and see what I can do. I've watched some tutorials on painting the leather or making a faux leather, so we shall see if I can do it. And then these I can definitely like decoupage around to give it a different look too. So So if you look where they have the punch, how they cut it is probably going to be how we cut it. And just little triangles so that it would actually go in two. So we're going to start with the bottom drawer, and I don't want to wrap around the sides because it's very tight fitting. So we're going to cut it to length here. Should I cut it to length on which side? Whatever side I cut it to length on, I'm going to have to continue. So if I cut it to length here, this guy is going to be like right in the middle, and we're going to lose his, like, half of his body to this, the notch. So let's offset him a little bit. And again, we're going to save these scraps. Okay. Do a little test fit here. That looks good. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the right side of the rest of these so I don't cut the wrong side. Alright, so I'm going to start at the bottom. Okay. Paint the Mod Podge on. And if you wanted your front image to have texture, you can do the tissue paper technique underneath it, but I'm just going to leave mine plain. And the drawers are a little bowed. Okay, this one I'm going to line up with the top mostly. Because of the image. Okay, second drawer. Mod Podge on the drawer. And then this one I'm going to line up at the bottom because I don't want him to look decapitated more than he has to. And then just a coat on the top. Make sure your corners stick down. And then for the cutout, you're just going to take your scissors and do the same thing they did, make little triangles. Okay. And then Mod Podge on the back and wrap it around. And then once this dries, we'll add a little bit of color to it. Give it like a distressed look. I'm just rubbing it like this so that there's no lines. It'll be a little different texture than the lines of the brush. And we're going to do that to each one of the drawers. Okay, now that the drawer fronts are covered in Mod Podge, we're going to set those aside to dry. And we are going to use the tissue paper technique on the remaining. Oh, I forgot to do this one. I think I got sidetracked. I'm going to use the tissue paper technique on the box. So I have some used tissue paper that I got in packages recently. Save your tissue paper. And if we need to touch that up later, we can. Okay. And the tissue paper can be also used under the fronts if you wanted the texture on the underneath the fronts. And then I'll probably paint here like a brown. So it doesn't matter what color it is underneath. This is going to take a bit more Mod Podge than what I care to brush on. So I'm going to dump a little and spread it around. Sorry, I don't think I can zoom out any. That's as far as it's going to go, you guys, because it's so tall. Since it's 10 inches tall and so close to the camera, it's hard to get in focus. So, and you won't be able to do this all at the same time, of course, because you have to let one layer dry. So I'm just going to stick some crumpled up tissue paper right onto the box, and then I'm going to Mod Podge over it. And if that's a good enough texture for you, then leave it be. The only thing I'm doing now, I just broke that because there was a lot of Mod Podge under it. You don't want too many air bubbles. So now I'm going to piece that together. So it's a super fun project and easy to do. You can have your kids do it. If you wait till it's dry, you don't have to cut it, you can just rip it off, but I am not that patient. Okay. And we're going to paint it, so don't worry about like you can see the edges there, but you're not going to be able to see those once we're done. Okay, and if you want to do two sides at a time, And I don't think I'm going to do the bottom, so. Okay. And then I can just cut the back off here. And piece that here. And then we'll let these two sides dry, and then we'll, at least to the touch. They don't have to be dry all the way. They just have to be dry to the touch so that we can flip it over and do the other side. And I'm just going to leave all that stuff hanging over, and we can trim it off later. Okay, wash your brush out while it dries so it doesn't dry on your brush, and we'll be back. Hi everybody, so I wanted to show you, here are the drawers completed on the outside, and everything's dry. So we're going to start our like leather technique. And then on the inside, I'm not sure if I got the footage or not, I painted around the perimeter and in the corners. And then I cut some strips of paper, and I'm just going to glue those in, or use some tape probably, and put those in. And I'm going to speed that up, and I will be right back with you.
my camera angle. I thought maybe this one would be a little more beneficial for what we're doing, and you can see it a little better. I'm going to speed this up because we're ready for the outside, and everything is pretty much white because I spray painted it white before I put the tissue on it, except for, if you remember, this was the original color. So we're going to paint this black, and then I noticed in the drawers when they're pushed in you can see the white here, so I'm definitely going to paint that a dark brown or black, or a little bit of both. I've got just the basic black and the dark brown acrylic paint, and then possibly, but I'm not sure yet, we're going to paint the drawers, possibly the sides, but that's kind of up in the air. I'm just not sure if we're going to do that yet. We have several layers to go. I think this will be the first layer that I want to do. It's just going to be dark, 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 and then the bottom part dark before we get into the faux leather look. So we're going to speed you up, and we'll be back. Okay, so let's look at this a little better. This is the bottom, so I did some testing as far as putting some reds and some yellows, and it's too dark for what I'm looking for. So I'm not going to start with the black or dark brown base. We're going to go lighter. So to my palette, my plate here, I'm going to add a brown and white and yellow and see what we come up with. The idea is to come close to the colors in the paper. So I may add a swatch of the paper to see if I can come close to it. And this is the paper that was on the drawer. And I'm going to water everything down with some Mod Podge. A little chunky I got going on there. And basically we're just going to mix colors until I come up with something that I like. Okay, so I still have the back to do complete. I moved the camera just a little bit so I could plug it in. It's just going from a different angle. Move you out of that light. So I still have to do the back, which, you know, it's the back, so I'm not horribly worried about it. It's not something that you're going to see. So I have this base coat of this, like a tan on there. I put a little piece of the original paper on here so I can see how close I can match. And I'm okay with this color. It doesn't look leather. I have some tattered leather from Tattered Angels. I don't know if they sell that anymore. I have some antique linen from Tim Holtz spray, and I have a gold. It's a craft, but there's definitely shimmer in it from the Tattered Angels. I'm going to see how much of a mess I can prevent, but I think it needs to add some accent. And it's a little wet yet, but I'm going to spray it I'm not really going to do, maybe just some dabbing and stuff. And we'll see how that comes out. Yeah, we'll just layer a little bit at a time. I think I've added several layers of color, and I'm just going to take a piece of tissue paper and dab it. It's not going to take away from the texture any, as if I were to brush it. I don't think I made too big of a mess. I want to try and keep some of those dark parts in the crevices from the tissue paper. That was the whole purpose of using the tissue paper. But I want to make sure that there's no runs. So, and then we'll piece some more of that original rice paper on there. The bottom's still a little wet, so I don't want to go to the back yet. I'm going to find a red or something with a red tint. I have a woven burlap, and the closest I could find to a red was a pink. Let's see what we can do. And then we can always go over it with some Distress Stain inks. I can see that the rice paper is taken a lot darker than the tissue paper. It may be because the rice paper was originally dark, or it could just be a difference in texture. This is the woven burlap. Let's spray a pink to see what happens here. And not a lot, but it does add a sparkle to it. I don't want it too dark, because remember, we're trying to come really close to that original paper. So let's set it back a minute. I'm thinking that looks pretty good. It's a little darker, but that's okay, because there's different textures to it, and we can still distress this just a little bit. I don't want to take away from it, but we can manipulate it enough to definitely make it match. So we're going to leave that dry like all night and come back with some distressing, some hand distressing. Hi everybody, this is what we got so far. It's the next morning, and it's been drying all night. There's something still wet on it. I haven't figured out what it is, but when I went to pick it up, I got stuff all over me. So I gotta go to work. So I wanted to get some drying time in. So just from sitting on its back, I ended up with this. I wanted to add some dark back into it, and then maybe a touch of green. I got the Tattered Angels Aquamarine, and yeah, we'll see what else we end up with. So I was thinking for the back, I was just going to squeeze some brown and some white on the, I don't want it to be, it doesn't have to be anything special, it's just the back. And I want to be able to use this paint, so mean, there's still a couple light spots on there, but I'm kind of thinking that that's okay. Spots are still about the same color as like the drawers, which is ultimately what we're trying to kind of mimic. Now, just taking this somewhat dry brush, I'm going over to lighten some of the more harsh spray droplet effects here, and it's filling in a little bit of the where I have light spots. And then I'm just going to add a touch of the green, and I'm going to put it on my palette, which in this case is a paper plate. I don't know if you can see this, I just sprayed it a little bit. Dab it on there. It gives it like a patina effect, but don't get me wrong, I don't want it to look like copper. But if you look at the drawers, there's some green in there. I'm trying to mimic that. Then we'll put this back up. I've been setting it on the trash can. Just a little touch. I think that'll really brighten it up just a little bit. Give it just that one more depth of color. And then I think we're going to tear some of this up when it dries. I can't do it now. I can tear it up now. Put this up. Okay, I'm going to leave that where it is for now so that I know the quote goes together. Okay, we're going to set those aside. Now, the other thing that I decided is that we're going to put some drawer pulls on here. This is the Paper Accent 8x8 90 point. So the 90 point is really thick. I think it will only take 2 strips. So I'm going to cut, this is a scrap I have, I'm going to cut it in half. Probably no more than 3/4 of an inch by 3 inches, and that'll cover the back, and this will be on the back of the door. So I'm going to cut this 3/4 of an inch by 3 inches. Now it's going to be easier to gauge where the middle of this is because we have the notches here. And I'm going to put a piece of tea stain paper in here, but you can definitely change that out if you wanted to label it later. So first thing we're going to do is glue these black strips of chipboard right in the middle, and then we're just going to screw in those nameplates just like we would if we were screwing them in a piece of wood. If I need to add another piece of chipboard. Okay, everybody, we're going to work on these drawers for a minute. I did paint the parts of the drawers that will show. I think I'm going to leave the bottom pink and the back pink to remind me where we started this journey. Now, I'm going to mark where I want these to go so that if they move, I will know. And then, I don't know if I'm going to have to like drill a little hole or if I can just screw it in the cardboard. So, I also have an awl. So, the screws that I'm using are pretty small. Okay, I moved you over because it was a really bad angle before. All you can see was my hand. So, I just line this up in the middle. Makes it super easy because you have this little hole there, that little tab. 2 dots, and that'll keep me lined up. I use this awl or ice pick or whatever this is just to poke through the top level cardboard.
And then once you put the screws in, and you start screwing that in, you want to hold that backer on really tight. I'm just starting it there so it didn't go very far. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is just everything on the box, or not everything, but there's a lot that's wet on the box, but I'm going to distress the outside corners of these drawers. I may have to move this one depending on how much it drives me insane. And then I think the last step, unless I get convinced otherwise, once it dries, I'm going to add some shimmer. I have these metallic luster, and Crystal has similar items in her store. I may have to get some gold from her. I do not have gold. I have rose gold, so I'm going to use that. And some peeled paint on the raised texture areas after the Mod Podge is dry. Okay, so I'm just going to add some green distress ink. And this is, yes, distress ink, not distress oxide. Just around some of the corners, and I mean, it's not like, it doesn't really look like leather, but it looks a lot better than it did before, so I'm good with that. It's definitely a more of an earthy, vintagey look, so I'm good with that. And then I'm going to spray her down. Probably let it sit overnight, and I didn't really do the back, but let it sit overnight, and we'll spray it with my matte sealant. I'll show you what that looks like. I put some coffee dye paper in here. I'll take it out and spray it with the low odor clear finish Krylon. So I think that's all we're going to do. I may move this over because it will drive me nuts, but besides that, we're pretty much done. So I'm going to put some pictures on at the end here. Head on over to Artistic Studio Creations on Etsy, ASC Supplies, and get your rice paper so that you can complete your own decoupage projects similar to this one. We'll see you next time. Use Scrapping Posh 10 for 10% off. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.